Hanging out, just another night of the week. Well, to be more specific, it's a Tuesday Eve. Got some ideas that just might intrigue. You should come on by tonight. We're spilling the beans. All right. Well, that was good. Everything working? You guys good?
Check, check.
My
Check.
thing still says waiting for spilling the beans.
Are we live?
No.
Are we live, Connor? Oh, okay.
Maybe it's just me.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, we're live.
we're live.
I think we're live. Yeah.
Did we get the jingle?
Oh, that's
Yeah,
why,
we
because
got the
we
jingle.
had to. Oh, that's
Oh.
why, because we had to. Oh, that was me. Sorry, I didn't mute my thing. Sorry. Sorry. I had the
We are
old-
live.
the first one open.
Okay. Oh,
we
I
got
see.
it. We
All right.
got it. We got it.
All right. Well, thank you for joining. Those who are watching. Spilling the beans, another one. This week we are going to discuss. This is episode 11. This week we're going to discuss traveling artists.
Space is on wheels.
Yeah.
Art space is
Art
on
spaces
wheels.
on wheels or art
Oh.
on wheels, right?
What can we do when we travel to make some money and showcase our work?
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a neat thing. Abel has the most experience, at least out of us, when it comes to that.
I have a bit.
You know, there's the and now we're talking a traveling artist, one whose home is their car, their vehicle, more or less.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of an opportunity,
Mhm.
especially if you make artwork that is fairly portable and you can get supplies as you travel. I think that there's potential that you can travel with your work and places that you could potentially sell it to earn money to pay for your travels.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting topic. I haven't met too many people other than me that have done that for a while, but I have heard of a lot of people doing very interesting things, just through talking with
Mhm.
people at the
Yeah.
booths. But yeah, I've heard of people turning their RVs or their little campers into photography booths.
Yeah.
And they take pictures for people. People who do jewelry
Right.
can do it fairly easily, especially if they're making it by hand,
Mm-hmm.
all the jewelry, so like that doesn't take up a lot of space.
Hmm.
So I've seen a little bit of that. My work, I was able to travel for quite a while with it. So yeah, I just think it's interesting. I think that it's a good opportunity to earn a living.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I can provide some insight in how you can actually do that.
Yeah.
I only know the way that I did it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm sure there's ways to do it.
And you were living
Remote-
out of your. You learned all this. You were literally a traveling artist.
Yeah.
Just to give a little backstory.
About 6 years I was on the road. I made the record art out of the back of the truck.
Mm-hmm.
It could, so I had redesigned the back of the truck so it could be a dark room,
Okay.
which allows me to do my work. And it was a small little truck.
Yeah.
It was pretty much just filled with records. Yeah, I've lived very minimalistically, but it was great. Like I did fairly well on the road. In fact,
Self-sustaining. Yeah.
what's cool about being on the road is if you kind of plan it according to you know, when shows are happening. Um, you can be in one part of the country or the other and still have work. Like for instance, you know, I would spend my summers between here and Boston and New York City and East Coast for the most part. But my winters would be in Southern California
Mm.
and Arizona, where sort of like the, you know, the prime time where art markets are happening would be that time. January through March would be the best time for a lot of the artists out there. Whereas like in the summer out there, it's like maybe not so much Southern California, but especially in Arizona, it's like you're dying in the summer. People don't come out, just like we don't go out when it snows,
Right.
you know, and
Right.
have
It's too hot
markets.
to be out
It's
there.
too hot to be out.
Mm.
So like if you kind of plan it right, you can make money year round. I don't think like I ever really had a weekend outside of like a rain date
Yeah.
where I
right.
wasn't booked,
Hmm.
Yeah.
you know? So I was doing 365 6 years nonstop.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Do you think that's specific to like visual art, like that type of?
I would say what I did, which was selling at like pop-up markets,
Mm-hmm.
some things like Comic-Cons, you know, holiday markets, like that stuff in particular is generally, in order to travel with it,
Mm-hmm.
you need like a price point that is like, you know, people buying gifts or buying impulsively.
Right.
You're not going to bode well selling $2,000 art installations,
Mm-hmm.
you know, while you're traveling. So it's like decent price point, you know, somewhere probably below $50. I mean, I'm sure like jewelry can probably go higher.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's other things that could as well. But yeah, and just do the pop-ups. They're all over the place year round.
Right. So it's yeah, this I mean it's self-sustaining and it looks like there's a lot of work in regards to scheduling where you need to be.
Oh
But
yeah.
but like you said, it works. The first art I remember seeing you do on the road more or less was before the record art, and it was for your merch tables.
Oh yeah. I had a lot
So
of merch.
you see a lot of interesting things. The biggest thing I see with merch tables, and it's cool, is like suitcase,
Yep.
right? Which is like traveling salesman with the suitcase, like all the wares in the suitcase.
Yeah.
Probably goes so far back, but you see people do just, I don't know. It's like it's an art piece in itself, having like a merch table
Yep.
and how you set it up.
Yeah.
Which I actually feel like I saw it evolve into your new art, you
Yep.
know, merch table, which is literally all like your product, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And yeah, I really like that's almost like, and I buy whenever I can, especially if I like the band. But I love looking at the merch table,
Yeah.
you know, and see it's kind of like looking at a museum almost sometimes, or yeah, they just have fun little knickknacks
Yeah.
sometimes on it, or a theme,
Yep.
you know, a themed merch table.
Yeah, for bands, like it's so imperative that you have merch.
Right.
Like you should, even if you're like, I would put my artwork in there. But yeah, it's extremely imperative that if you're a traveling band, because that's where I started.
Mm-hmm.
When I first got on the road, I was doing pop-up markets with the record art occasionally.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
And it was much more of a music thing. And slowly, as I had a lot of trouble recording. So slowly, as I got sick of the same songs I was playing over and over,
Sure.
the record art started to become more of the focus while I was on the road. And then the music became a little more occasional. There's just it's so much easier to make a living like doing art than it is music. Music is a tough way to make a living. But
Right.
if it wasn't for that merch table,
Right.
you know, I would have ran out of money. The
Mhm.
merch table is the thing that saves you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, you know, for bands out there, making t-shirts is not crazy hard, you know.
No, we've given some examples of that.
Yep. You know, sell your records, stickers, you know. I mean, you can get a cheap die cutter from
Mhm.
like Michaels or
Yeah.
something. and you can carve out die cutted stickers, get yourself a stamp, and stamp those things,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you got stickers.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so like anything you can do to like help with that, because if you meet people that really care for what you're doing, they're gonna want to support you.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna know that you're on the road.
Mhm.
And that's the other thing I used to do, like when I was on stage. Hey, I'm traveling. You know what I mean? Like you tell people you have to be sort of humble.
You give a
And
story. Yeah.
yeah, you have to be sort of humble and be interactive with people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing used to like drive me more nuts than bands that would just like, especially as an independent band, that would just like ignore the people
Fans.
who really cared about. I mean, the first thing I would do when I was done unloading my stuff would be out in the crowd,
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
to people. You know,
That's big.
Mhm.
That's
Um,
big. Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, that's another aspect to it. I mean, we're talking about physical art, and you're
Yep.
saying also like in your experience of doing both, that's like much easier.
Oh, so much easier.
Yeah, and
So
then you
much easier.
have what's interesting too, which makes me think, is you doing like the music on the road. That's an art, right? Not as physical in the sense of like tangible touch, but listen, of course, and with that, it was almost the business of having to do that. Would you say that stifled your creative like flow for like writing more music at the time? Like, was it difficult to write on the road?
It was difficult to write on the road, but not because of that.
Okay.
No. Music booking is always very difficult because for some reason, like it just takes a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to go through maybe 3 series of emails to book a show. You know, a lot of the talent buyers are a bit overworked.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
you know, you get a tentative date and you got to pencil it in, and then you get a semi confirmation if they can find local support. You know, that's how I was doing it in the very beginning.
Right.
Was like reaching out to venues. I very quickly, because it was so much work, stopped that and started reaching out to bands and like DIY venues. So
Mhm.
like kids that had houses that would throw concerts in their living rooms or whatever.
Mm.
Because it was so much more. It was like the crowd was going to be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, it's very different with the artwork. With the artwork, it's just like, okay, I want to do this show. You submit your art, you know what the dates are,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a booth fee.
Right.
And if they accept you, you pay the booth fee, you're good to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'll be there and you'll make money, and there'll be a crowd there, hopefully. And more often than not, you know, there is, and it's a, but to answer your question, what made it very difficult to make music on the road was just not having a place or enough time to be able to do it. I mean, there were stupid things like I'd run out of electricity. Like
Mhm.
I'm boondocking. Like I'm
Mhm.
not in a campground. So like I'm relying on the solar
Mm-hmm.
to run. So like I would run out of electricity. Or like I try to make a recording and you would just hear cars whizzing by.
Yeah.
And, you know what I mean?
Right. Right.
And, you know, like stuff like that
Mhm.
was sort of a hindrance to it. I
Mhm.
mean, if you were doing maybe some simple stuff, where I don't know, maybe you were just, you know, recording you playing your guitar in sort of a lo-fi way, that was cool. But you know, I was layering tracks. I was,
Yeah.
and
But for writing, not so much like recording.
yeah,
But, like, even just, like-
recording was the hard thing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did write a lot, but recording and finishing things was difficult because, you know, I guess this is a good lead into like, it's a hard life.
Mm-hmm.
Like it will make you very strong,
Yeah.
but you have to work for everything. Like you
Yeah.
have to work for a shower.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, you have to work for your food because you're not going to be able to store a ton of food. You only can store 2 or 3 days worth of food.
Mm.
Like you know, your electricity, like, you know, you have to make sure you're in a place where, you know, if it's raining for 3 days, your fridge might stop working
Yeah.
if you're running on, or
Yeah,
you might run
right.
out of propane, and you might be in the middle of the nowhere where you can't find propane or something.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a very hard life, and that's why like I see a lot of these videos like on, especially like Instagram, but like
Mhm.
YouTube, Instagram, where people think that it's like this crazy freeing thing. That was never my mentality. My mentality is I just want to get my music and my artwork out there, and I want to reach as many people as I can, you
Mhm.
know. But like it is a very freeing thing, but it's also very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So like that stifled a lot of the creative.
Yeah, yeah. I can imagine.
You know.
I can imagine that. I mean, it's hard for me to do certain creative things when like on my lunch break at work, let's say, right? Like, so because and some folks might even be better at it, and I bet maybe it's not even a great excuse, but it's a thing. You know what I mean? You're not in that mode, and when you're on the road,
Yeah.
like you said, you have to work just to shower.
Yeah.
You have to empty your, so you're always kind of like there's an edge, I'd imagine. And maybe even writing would be a little easier, like maybe in certain aspects, because you can, that's an outlet, hopefully.
Yeah.
But like you said, to finish something or to like write, record,
Yeah.
like do all of this. Yeah. It sounds difficult.
You also do a lot of driving.
Yeah.
That takes up
which
a
is
lot of
exhausting.
time.
It's
Mm.
energy too.
Yeah.
Drive,
Once you get out of the East Coast, like drives aren't 40 minutes anymore. They're
Yeah,
like
right,
2.5 hours to the next city.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They're not. It's not like that out there.
My dad and I
Anywhere.
used to take trips to Springfield, Mass, or
Yeah.
like maybe not even, maybe it was like Smithfield. Is it Smithfield? Smithfield?
Rhode Island?
Oh, in
Rhode Island, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Used to think it was long.
people would ask us, like, we'd be getting stuff together, seeing a friend of his, and people would ask us at the old folks' home in Bristol. They'd pop up to the car, "Where are you guys going?"
Yeah.
And Smithfield, and like, cool. Got a hike
like,
there.
That's fun.
And like every person that came up and chatted with us about it, they're like, "Ooh, that's got a hike ahead of you, huh?" And my dad's like, him and I did travel like for tournaments, like when I was younger,
Mm.
and I mean, we were like, yeah, we were just chuckling at it. It was kind of like a Fargo thing, there's like this, okay, then like, oh, you got to drive ahead of you there, you're dry, that's exhausting. Like, I'm tired after a long drive like that. That's and that's all you're doing.
I used to
live literally on wheels.
I used to have my headphones in, and so I was able to write a lot of lyrics. Like I have tons of lyrics.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. But it was while I was driving.
Because you headphones in while you're driving?
Yeah, my radio doesn't work. My car's from the 80s.
Yeah.
Is it dangerous? I can hear. They're low.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's like as long as you can hear ambulances.
Yeah, I can hear everything. But yeah, I'd have headphones in, and I would like be thinking of lyrics, and I would just tell Siri to write them in the notes.
Oh, neat. Yeah.
Right. But then I would go to the notes, and it would be this jumbled mess of like not words that I said, and I'd have to like decode it later.
Oh man, that's kind of fun too. Or maybe some words that you didn't say but worked. In certain situations.
Yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah. But there's ways that I would try to focus on being creative while I would do drives and stuff without distracting myself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. No, I was always impressed. All of us were. When you took off, because you're kind of doing that, like I'm a guitar player, I'm a musician.
Yeah.
I'm literally hitting the road. Like I've got my house on my wheels and everything's out of this.
Yeah.
It's scary, and it is a different, but you can do the same thing just as you do, and now with the physical art. And so those are almost like two different types of traveling artists, right? And then that made me think of what might be next week's topic, but like clowns.
Mm.
Oh yeah, performing artists.
Yeah.
Oh, what about like when they used to have like the wagon, but then like it was like a stagecoach or whatever, but it was like the stage would actually fold out of the wagon, and then they would do their. How cool would it
Like
be
making
to
a
see like
mini
a
stage?
modern
Yeah.
A modern
version
mini
of that.
stage. Yeah, that'd be so, like, bring back the buggies kind of
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah.
Like, what if you can make like an old-fashioned buggy that's like road proof with a
Yeah.
car that can be towed or something,
Yeah.
Like a caravan, like the circus caravan.
Yeah.
But,
the stage is within that. and
Within
you
it,
pop it
yeah,
out.
yeah.
And people just gather.
I have some
around.
pictures of a couple that I would see driving around. And
Really?
yeah, they would be built out of like they would be built out of like maybe like a class B like chassis.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like it would be like your dad's camper, but no camper, and
Oh.
built out of the back was like a
Whoa.
stage that would clearly fold out and open up.
Your dad
Mhm.
does have an old camper
That would be so
that he's trying to get
cool.
rid
Oh
of.
my
He does.
gosh.
Yeah,
That'd be
he'd
kinda neat.
work on that. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Frame.
and with that, as a professional clown too, Kaylee's clown name is
Sally Squats.
Sally
Sally
Squats.
Squats.
What is, if there is, what is the clown carrying code, kind of like, what does a clown always have on them?
Do they always have on there?
Yeah, what do you
Like, what
always
would
have
you
in your
travel with
pockets?
for like what would you travel with if you felt like you could do this and you could perform in different places? What would you be traveling with?
And or what do you always bring to a gig? Like, what do you always, like, musts that I'm sure folks, the nose, but an extra nose.
extra
what I mean?
nose, you definitely need that. You need to have like your face makeup with you, balloons. You gotta have balloons.
Yeah.
Some kind of balloon pump, and probably an extra balloon pump too, because I've had instances where the balloon pump breaks and then you're screwed. Or you'd pass out from blowing up all the balloons. And what else? Stuff to juggle. What else would you need?
Basically like a props case.
Yeah, just a big old bag of props.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
could probably get away with a props case. I mean, that's something that could be built into anything. That would be a great thing to do. I mean, I think street performing, though it probably would be fun, could be difficult to make enough money potentially. But I do wonder if there's any sort of networks out there of maybe city or town run events that are looking for performers. I wonder if you could like book yourself,
Yeah.
across the country. I envision like a day at the park, where they're having some sort of event at the park or something,
Yeah,
or
right.
One of the clowns I went to school with used to perform in Central Park a lot.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in that case, like, I guess you would need like mobile or like even stuff that could fold up that you could make like a little set out of like very quickly, even if it's just like a big piece of construction paper that has like a background, like
Right.
like say you want to pretend you're in Paris or something,
Right.
have a little drawing of like with the Eiffel Tower and stuff, or
Yeah.
some little scenery pieces.
Sets, like set
Yeah,
pieces,
like
yeah.
little sets
Yeah.
that are like very portable.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Canvas kind of thing. I could see that. We have
Yeah, that
signs
would
at
roll
work
up
that
flat.
where like you roll it out of this just cylinder
Yeah.
up, and it's on a spring, and then you just prop up this like microphone telescoping stand, and it goes up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's like an immediate scrim if you want it, if you for theater or anything like that. Yeah, that's neat. That's
If
really
I was a
cool.
mime, I wouldn't need anything.
Yeah. Just some makeup.
Maybe
right?
extra makeup.
Yeah.
Do you
just
carry extra makeup with you? As
Usually, but I don't ever like end up
Needing it?
reapplying it
Yeah.
because like part of the like mess is part of Sally.
Right, like the
know?
worn look, like
Yeah.
a tired clown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like if you were to plan it right, you could probably do street performing and make a bunch of money. Like for instance, in Salem, like we've been doing Salem,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean there are so many people during this time and so many performers. Most of them are maybe spooky themed in some way. Not all of them, but some of them. But like I feel like they make bank at this time.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you could pinpoint, a few locations that are just hopping at a certain time of the year.
You have to get some kind of license though to do that, or
I think there is like a street performing license but they're cheap because I used to get peddler's
Mm-hmm.
licenses. California in particular sort of required them. They're cheap. They're like $20, and you get a license. Some of them like vet you in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them do background checks on you to make sure you're clear in that regard.
Huh.
And they're usually fairly quick and seamless. I would say like 90% of the time when I needed a peddler's license, I could just go to City Hall, fill out some paperwork, and they would give it to you.
Hmm.
So it's not difficult.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is neat.
Yeah. So that's a cool way to make money on the road, like just
Mhm.
performing. I've met people who like their entire goal was to just travel, and they just wanted something to fund their travels, and they make coffee out of their RV. They just
Neat.
sell coffee at pop-up markets,
Yeah.
Wow.
and lattes and stuff, or some of them do slush,
Oh.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's
I
a
was
good way to
wondering that
just
too about like food trucks. I know food trucks are a thing, but are there people that travel all over doing
yeah.
some kind of like food or beverage thing?
Yeah, a lot of them stay fairly local because, in particular, food, because they have to get. Usually, it's like a restaurant.
You need like a production.
Like, you need
center.
to get your food. You know what I
Mm.
mean? They're
Yeah.
not slinging Elios, but
Yeah.
some of them do like hot dogs and hamburgers. I guess you can just do whatever you want with that. You know what I mean? But yeah, there's some that have a brand name, and I mean, something like coffee is very easy to store a lot of it.
Right.
Especially if you do whole bean. I think they last fairly
I was
long.
gonna say, yeah, expiration is
Yeah.
is minimal on that.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, no, I mean, it's traveling artists. It's probably like it probably goes all the way back.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's a really neat idea.
Oh, I know
and difficult.
another cool thing.
Yeah.
So I actually have a friend who does the New York show. She sells clothing, and she makes all her own clothing. But she has like small storage containers like throughout the country, like just little U-Hauls, like little ones, and she ships her stuff before the year starts. Like, she'll make everything,
Mm-hmm.
say take like 6 months and make everything, ship them to her different containers in the different cities she wants to go, and then she'll travel to them. Her stuff will be in her container or whatever, and she must work it out with the
Wow.
people who rent for her. Like, can you just put this in there?
Mhm.
And she's able to go get her stock because clothes are something difficult to travel with because they're bulky.
Mm.
A
Weight,
lot
yeah.
of them,
Yeah.
so that's a cool way for someone who has bulky artwork in some way, sculptures, whatever. I don't know. You can just ship them to yourself in little storage containers,
Right.
in
Yeah.
different.
That's neat. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Great idea. Yeah, there's all kinds of options.
Yeah, I think so. I think people really feel daunted, like they really want to travel, but they can't figure it out, especially like artists and stuff. And it's not that difficult,
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of work.
It's an emotionally, it's probably difficult.
Mhm.
Like, man, I'm really jumping ship here. Like, I don't know if I'm going to make enough money or not, but you will.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you test yourself out in your local market, if you're able to make money, you'll make money in other places. I mean, there'll be some places you go to where, like, I've done a couple shows in the middle of nowhere, where like I had this one show. It's like the worst show I ever did. And I was I don't know. It was like somewhere in Indiana. It wasn't like the city either. It's like outside the city. But so my setup is like all the record art, and then it has like the guitar case.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a new tweed guitar, like a newer tweed guitar case. And it was like a mostly vintage stuff. And everyone that was coming by was just asking me to buy my guitar case because they thought it was like vintage.
Oh,
And I was like, what is going on here?
yeah.
Like, you'll have
Sure.
places like that where you just don't fit in here. But for the most part, like there were very few places I went where I couldn't make enough money.
Yeah.
And I think most people could do that. If you do well in your local market, you'll probably do fine.
Yeah.
just
Right.
about anywhere, you know.
Test the waters too.
Yeah.
With local.
Go to the city that's near you. If you do
Mhm.
well in the city, then you're probably good in different cities.
Right.
You know, if you do well in rural areas, then you probably will do well in other rural areas,
Yeah.
you know, or suburbs or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what would be a fun concept too? Like someone that did like found art, like say they go to different thrift stores across the country and then like find like paintings or books or anything and then make an art piece out of it, or even like if they go to like a beach and then they make like rock art out of that and then like they sell that at different markets. That would be kind of neat because then
Yeah.
like
That,
everything would tell a story of like where they were.
Right.
that reminds me of Wayne White. Did you guys ever see that?
I think so.
Wayne White, he like he's done a lot of things. He was like part of Pee Wee's Playhouse. He was like a puppeteer.
Hmm.
He would make the puppets, but he also does this thing where he goes to like a thrift store and he buys like a painting that's already been made. You know, like those old looking paintings with the big, thick gold swirly frames.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? You
Yeah.
can get them like in any Salvation Army or whatever.
Yep.
And he just paints like kind of funny scenes around what's already in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, he does awesome.
That's great.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah. Using kind of like tossed away art.
Yeah.
Is that any is that-
Upcycling. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Oh yeah.
great.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there and I'm just curious, is there any kind of like, if it's just a print and you're just like kind of doing your own thing to it, you know, I mean, I'm sure maybe the original artist who might by all means be passed away at that point and never even know.
Yeah.
But is there like something like, not taboo isn't the right word, but like
Unethical about that?
unethical about it? You know what I mean? I don't like, you had a painting in your house that wasn't even a, was it a original painting?
What?
That big canvas?
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
Original. Yeah.
It was like flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But it wasn't being used. Nobody really liked it. It was like acquired through another, you know.
Do you mean in the sense of like, okay, this artwork is like in Goodwill for $2 and it's
Yeah.
not selling or
Yeah.
anything? And I don't think in that regard, no. Like,
let's say
interpretive
let's say
work
let's
is
say it's
art.
an original.
Mhm.
Let's say it's an original painting.
It's an original painting.
Yeah, and it's not like
I mean, if it's not moving or selling or
yeah.
you know, I mean, you know, I would say it depends on what it is, but like, you know, who, you know, anybody can paint fucking flowers or something.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not
Mm.
like really.
Oh,
art.
I totally agree.
You know what I mean?
I
Like-
agree. It's just like there's still like a part of me that's kind of like,
What
you're
do you mean?
covering
You're
up
paint-
someone else's
you're
work.
painting on a painting. You know what I mean? Or like
At the-
and I don't think there's anything like, you know, again, I'm just trying to figure out what that is, that like part that's like,
well,
You know?
like for example, like I do upcycled records, right?
right.
And I'm very particular. Like the records that I'm buying, I'm specifically looking for things that would end up in a landfill if I didn't do something with them.
Sure.
There are
Mm.
tons of records that aren't going to sell that are going to get thrown away.
Mm.
Some of those paintings, a
Mhm.
good amount of those paintings, they're going to get thrown away.
Yeah, especially prints. I mean, if it's prints,
Printed, yeah.
a print is a print, but
You
yeah,
know,
right.
So I
right.
think in that regard, an interpretive work, you know, I don't see a problem with it. I mean, if you just went and got like a new piece of art that didn't have a life, you know what I mean? Yeah, it didn't have an opportunity to have a life, and that might be different. But this
Yeah.
thing had its run, and
Mm.
you don't like
know,
it. Nobody likes it.
It is where it is. Yeah,
And if you think about it, like had it not been so bad,
Yeah.
you wouldn't be painting a new picture over it.
Yeah,
You know what I
right.
mean? If it was a good painting, you wouldn't be painting a new picture.
Yeah.
But you don't like the painting.
yeah.
It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and also I think also like it's sort of a gray area because it depends on what you do with it too. Like for instance, like if you go like, you know, get a comic book and just draw like mustaches on everybody, you know, like
Oh, sure. Yeah.
like you know, people are gonna buy it, you know, more so because of the comic book. You know what I mean? It depends if you're
They're
actually
gonna say
turning.
you
Are
fucking
you turning
ruined
this into
comic
like?
book."
Yeah. Are you turning this into an upcycled piece of art, or are you, just trying to sell what's already there? You know?
Yeah, and
Mhm.
so I was wondering with that gentle chap you just mentioned, who does that, like kind of draws into another painting,
Yeah.
Wayne White.
Wayne
Yeah.
White.
They're
So
fantastic, by the way.
right, and so, but can the artist, if they see their art and someone who's put, let's say, Homer Simpson in the background eating a donut, like
Yeah.
kind of blurred out, or just
Yeah.
is there any kind of like ramification on the person who doctored it?
No, it depends.
You know
It
what I mean?
depends if it's a, for instance, like toy photography. This
Yeah.
is totally fine. You know what I mean?
Toy
Like
photography,
toy
like taking
photography.
pictures of toys.
Yeah, like that's fine. If you
Sure.
take a picture of a Spider-Man
Yeah.
and you do something to it that, I'm talking about like a figure,
Yeah.
and you do something with it, you're using that figure, but like there's been so many lawsuits that kind of weigh in the favor of the artist in situations like that. I think a
Interesting,
really
yeah.
famous one was like there was a Barbie toy photographer or something where they leaned in his favor, and there's
Yeah.
been so many that
Right.
you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
And also like
I was just thinking
fan
artist versus artist in that sense. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Also, I think fan art, I'm not sure how it goes law-wise, but it should be totally fine.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
even though technically a copyright protects that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would imagine if you were all of a sudden on a big scale operation, like if
Mhm.
you're, you have a factory now that's pumping out prints of a Spider-Man that you drew or
Mhm.
something, like I can see them having qualms with it.
Yeah.
But again, I think that it might fall in the artist's favor.
Right.
But then, obviously, alternatively, like if you're doing bootleg stuff, like
Mhm.
don't do that.
Yeah. Sure.
Don't print an album cover of the Beatles on a t-shirt, or
Mhm.
don't, make a big picture of the cover of a comic book or something.
Yeah.
Like
Rob
that's
wants the mustaches.
yeah. Right.
I want a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mirage comic collection with mustaches drawn on the 4 turts. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I will not do that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah, you draw googly eyes on. Yeah, like I
Yeah.
said, you just
Actually, in retrospect, thinking about it now, I think it'd be pretty funny to like get comic books and just draw mustaches on everyone and sell it.
That would
But
be-
yeah, I'd
but,
be pissed.
The
Mm.
point being, like, are you doing an interpretive work? Are you doing something creative, or are you bootlegging?
Right.
Mm.
Right.
So,
Yeah. There is definitely a difference. But yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting how seeing like and again, like it sounds more negative than it is, this defilement of a piece that someone did.
Well, just think
You know?
about some of our most celebrated artists, Andy Warhol.
Yeah.
Or I mean, that's all he did.
Right.
You know what I mean? All he
Right.
did was take pictures of Elvis, and I don't know what he did. They squirt guns or whatever.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Campbell soup cans and stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
Mhm.
And he's pretty celebrated.
Yeah, certainly.
And I don't think there were any ramifications for it.
Well,
Mhm.
there's controversy over
There's
it.
controversy on whether people consider it to be great art or not.
Yeah, right.
But
right,
not so much, like
legal
Elvis's
or anything
estate
like
coming
that.
after Andy Warhol.
Yeah, I don't know of any of that. Yeah, or Campbell soup.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, no.
Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Marilyn Monroe. Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's an interesting thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say like I don't see a problem with interpretive work.
Yeah. No, nor I.
Mm.
It's just those little
Yeah.
those funny little things. You're like, oh,
Especially if it's
You know.
clearly upcycling. It's good.
and it is. You're right. Yeah.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Don't throw all that stuff away if we don't have to.
Right. Oh no.
You know?
Yeah, if it's not being used and no one likes it, no, I'm totally for it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
one of those funny things. Kathleen did say, I feel like you run into this with music too, right? Like so
Oh, like samples.
sampling,
Sampling.
of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Perfect example. is like, there's certain songs like for instance, if you were to go listen to like Doggy Style, right? It's a lot of
To what?
funkadelic Doggy Style,
Snoop Dogg?
Snoop Dogg,
Yeah.
a lot of funkadelic samples,
Mm.
but like it is totally it isn't using the sample that was gotten from Funkadelic. It isn't using that to sell the work. It's a totally completely sounds like its own thing, amazing piece of work, right?
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't sound like that song.
Right.
But then there, are, especially in modern times, like, do you remember when like MIA came out with that with um
Paper Planes.
Paper Planes?
Yeah, and there's the Clash.
And then like you would just hear like someone else just like it'd be the same song, but they would just like rap over it or something.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
And it was just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
so
right.
lazy and
right.
shitty.
Mm-hmm.
So like again, it's kind of a gray area, but it's obvious what is art and what is not.
That's an interesting too, because someone is utilizing that beat, which is already utilized.
They're making money off MIA song.
Right.
You
but
know what I mean?
also MIA in that song Paper Planes is using a sample
They are using
thing from Clash, so
Yes.
it's really
Yeah.
interesting.
but no
the
one
newer-
listens to that and is like that's the Clash.
Well, that
song.
that was also made. That was like that
Yeah.
work was put in to edit it so that it worked as such.
That's an
And,
interpretive work.
Yeah, right,
and then
right.
exactly, that's an interpretive work.
And someone else took
then
that and just
someone just
looped it.
grabbed it and looped it and
Yeah,
just rapped over it, and that's terrible.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, right. I think you could do whatever you want. It's when you start trying to make money off of it and
Yeah.
profiting off of that too.
Yeah.
Because you could go back a bit further, and nobody knew who wrote a certain song
Yeah.
because so many people just started singing it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I love
Mhm.
that. I
Yeah.
think that's really cool. It's when someone then starts to like make money off of it. And
Yeah.
also even then it was kind of cool because people were able to just sing that same, let's say, I think you'd call it maybe traditional now.
Yeah.
But let's say someone claims sings a song, very popular song. Well, someone else might say, I could do that better with a better band or a different groove, same song. And then they would come out. So you find all these different versions of Moon River, an old song, right?
Yeah.
Like it's in movies, it's in all kinds of things. And I wonder if certain songs, they're like, oh, we don't know even who wrote it. So it's kind of like free and open until
Yeah.
maybe someone buys it or, does something like that. But that's still different than someone taking a recording, let's say Moon River, who would that be? That's Andy Williams
Or Audrey Hepburn.
or Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah.
But let's say Audrey Hepburn took Andy Williams like track or something,
The chorus. Yeah.
and everything, and just use that same thing and just sang over it.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Or sang her own song over that. Yeah, right. There's very little work, and like you said, it's kind of that's a good like governor on it. Like, was there any what was the word? Intuitive or interpretive, like, was
Yeah.
there work put into this? Yeah.
And some people make collages as their art.
Yeah.
And I've seen some collages that are amazing.
Sure. Yeah.
That's all entirely comprised of
Mm-hmm.
other people's work, but that's an interpretive work. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it becomes pretty obvious as
It's very obvious,
Yeah.
but it's funny because it's very difficult to articulate, which is why there's not a lot of laws around it.
Yeah.
And the laws are like all jumbled.
And the court cases are a mess.
Yeah.
With them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have to in law you have to put everything in writing, in clear, concise writing, and it's all based off of other lawsuits and other rulings.
Right.
Whereas that's very difficult to do. Whereas like we could just look at something and be like, oh, that's just a ripoff, or that's a really brilliant way to use something like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
It's very easy to perceive, but very difficult to explain.
would the jury be like, could the jury be of those certain cases, like those of like
Yeah.
high status and honor, and humbleness of artists, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Celebrity artists or something, you know,
Oh,
or something
yeah.
like that.
I think it would be easier to use examples,
Yeah.
wouldn't
Yeah.
it?
Oh,
Like,
and they do, I think, in those court cases, especially with music.
yeah.
Mhm.
They show like, and a lot of times the defense says, well, look at these two songs, look what they do, and not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that must be actually like one of maybe a fun court, like to be called for jury duty, like
Yeah,
if it's
yeah.
all on something like that, you're just
It's just
listening to
all
music.
it's all like music and like understanding.
And they're
like-
playing like
Yeah.
probably like it's over like a formula.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just like basic.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, so Rob says MIA's Paper Planes is a perfect example of an artist's unique take
Yep.
on another song, Straight to Hell by The Clash, which is
Yep.
the song that was sampled in there, completely making it her own. An artist's interpretive work, just not just a sample, right?
Right.
Yeah, good call, y'all. Thank you, Rob. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
That's exactly right.
It is a great one. And you know, and you bump into them all the time, and it's I think those who are more involved and invested in art, even not even just music, usually the two go hand in hand. I don't know if I've met an artist who doesn't like music, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But maybe they're out there, I'm sure. But still, yeah, I think it's kind of clear that
yeah.
that line, it's not thin.
It's so weird. Yeah. It's
You know?
very clear and obvious. And
Mhm.
yet,
And I see it online, being on all these illustration forums, and they're usually younger artists or people that want to be artists, and I don't think it's too snidey to say, but they're all they're really doing is Photoshop, and maybe they're putting time into it, but Photoshop manipulation to actual photos,
Mhm.
and that's fine too.
like their photos or other people's photos.
Like famous photos, like maybe a famous shot, like I'll see like screenshots of a movie,
Yeah.
and sometimes they'll even put up the original piece that they did, which is a mistake because they're both the exact same size, like the format of both things are the same size.
Yeah.
So what they're doing is they're just manipulating it, but the problem is they're saying they drew it or illustrated it or
Oh, you
painted
mean
it.
they're drawing like a scene from a movie?
They're saying that, yeah, exactly. They're like,
But
this was my reference
they're
picture.
they're tracing a frame from a movie.
Sometimes it's tracing and it's quite obvious, but most of the time they're not even doing that. They're
yeah.
they're applying a paint effect.
What's that comic book artist? Isn't it? I hope I'm saying the right guy, but I think it's Greg Land or something. He's notorious for that, where like he's like he did like I think he did like X-Men
Mm-hmm.
for a run or something, and he would use like for the girls' expressions, like he could not, like he had to use a reference photo, so he was always looking for reference photos, and he would do things like swimsuit covers, but then it would be like an X-Men, but like it would be clearly the same swimsuit cover, Sports
Okay.
Illustrated, and like he would do like
And was he tracing?
so like if like a superhero, I don't know if he was tracing or just referencing it.
Okay, yeah.
But like a superhero would like a female superhero would be like using her powers, but her face looked like, you know, pornographic almost, like she was like,
Oh,
and
wow.
he was using like porn as references
Whoa.
to draw like
Interesting.
to draw like, you know, like
Yeah.
storm causing a
Right,
storm,
they're
but
in
their
these-
face would be like, you know, you kind of look like you're, you know.
Like,
But-
"Ooh, hello, yeah, right.
But I think it's
right.
Greg Land.
I think it is. I just looked it up.
Yeah,
He's
I think it's
accused of
Greg Land.
plagiarism.
Yep.
Says the story 12 years in the making.
Yep.
Oh,
They've been doing it for a
interesting.
Yeah.
So, and I wonder
while.
if there's like, because you see that too now, especially like programs that are really good at making something look comic book.
Mm.
I'm sure there's literally just a filter on it that you say comic book, and you can tweak certain things to make it look damn close, you know. And you know, you might get into a gray area if you're doing that with your own photos. You know what I mean? Like photos that you've taken.
I don't think that that's looked down on at all.
I think that's
Um,
okay. That's
yes,
that
your
there's a
own-
medium. It's just cross medium,
Yes.
and as long as you're not saying I drew these, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know,
Even at that, like there are some amazing what's the maybe Kaylee you could find it, but there's an amazing comic book artist. He paints all his stuff, and
Oh,
he
nice,
uses
yeah.
all reference photos to paint his work.
oh yeah, yeah.
And
But there's no tracing, like
no one, there might be.
Yeah.
That's not at the end of the day, that's really just a workflow.
Well, I think if you're tracing pictures again you've taken, but I think if you're tracing art, like a photo that was taken by someone else,
That's not
or
good.
from a film,
But if your
you know?
workflow is using photography, your own
Yeah,
personal
yeah,
photography,
yep.
and let's say you're tracing,
Mhm.
I mean, I don't think there's any shame in that whatsoever. I
Yeah.
think that that's just a workflow you've interpreted, and it has a very particular look to it.
Right,
And if
right.
that's what you're going for, and I told you, like maybe one of our first or second episodes, that one of my favorite artists, and I remember my jaw sort of hitting the floor when I saw this guy's work. And that's what he did. I think I could be mistaken, but I think Puma Blues.
Neat.
There was a
Yeah,
lot of that.
yeah,
Like
yep.
I think there's a lot of that.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
fine.
yeah.
It's
as long
fine.
as it's all like yours.
Yeah.
Right. Every
Yes.
piece is yours. Right.
Yeah,
I think that, yeah.
some artwork is meant to be more imaginative, where like maybe you can't do that, and some is meant to look real.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Was it Alex Ross?
yeah, I believe it
Alex
is.
Ross is
Nelson
great.
Ross. I
Yeah.
believe it
So
is,
Alex
yeah.
Ross, he uses a lot of you're right, a lot of reference.
Yep.
His mother was an artist for Sears catalogs.
Mhm.
And you know how Sears catalogs, a lot of the men and women in them, there was like this real bright, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This very old fashioned kind of like look,
Yeah.
but it was very realistic.
Yeah.
It looked super. And yeah, that's how all of they look beautiful. Kingdom Come
Yep.
was a beautiful comic, and just about everything he does is
Yeah.
phenomenal. Yeah. And he does, you're right. He does use a lot of reference. But I mean, you see these things on billboards, on Comic-Cons, like his pieces of art, and they're mind blowing.
They're amazing.
They're really, really
Yeah.
good. Yeah. So I mean, and I'm all for that. And again, so you do see these forms of, and again, I think these folks online who are tracing someone else's work or doing all of these, you see them get called out almost immediately
that's not
by those on the site. Like this, this is not, you didn't do this.
Yeah.
And especially when you see the applications.
Yeah.
So I'm curious sometimes to see, especially with we've discussed AI and all of that, to see how close that starts to get, at least in the general public's view. I think, like we were saying, it's with an artist,
Yeah.
it's the line is quite thick as to,
Yeah.
the legitimacy or originality
Yeah.
to a piece of art. Interpret. What was the word again they used?
Interpretive work?
Yeah, interpretive work.
That's crazy.
Interpretive
The
work, yes.
Greg Land guy, someone called him out and said they'd been Greg landed, and they had it looks like it was like alien artwork.
Like from the show Alien, or just about Alien, like a piece on it?
So he accused Land of copying his work when creating the cover for Aliens Omnibus Volume 1. And in the post, the guy says he saw it on Instagram and he recognized the hands right away. And then when he put it like back into Photoshop, the snap function, like it locked right in.
Yeah.
Like it matched perfectly.
So that's how you can tell.
Yeah.
If you're ever curious about something like that, Google the image that you think it might be, and just it might take some resizing or recropping, but you can really tell. I don't know if other folks have this. It's like the only innate skill I have, but I can revert cross my eyes a little bit, not like obviously, but I can do it slightly so that I can see double.
Well, that's why you're really good at Magic Eye.
Magic Eye. If anybody knows of a money prize competition for Magic Eye, I can see those pictures in the blink of an eye. I see them immediately.
Mm.
But because I can do this on a computer screen, when someone says, "Here's my reference photo," and here's my drawing, I can quickly like put those over. And I'm also really good at like find the mistake in this photo or what's different in this photo than that one, because when you put them together, they either lock in, and what you do is use what shows, because you're doing this, what shows are the differences the indifference, so the color might be different or whatever, but I can lock it in and see right away.
Oh wow.
I'm like, yep, that is a print, that is the original, and they just messed with it in Photoshop or something.
Yeah.
So but still, yeah, just take it into Photoshop or take it into editing, and you can even put them side by side, but see if you can click them in, you know, and that's how you can tell right away.
This guy was trying to be smart about it too, because I guess the head he took from a different drawing of somebody else's.
Wow.
So he's
Yeah.
just like
Like,
making a
dude.
collage, but just like tracing other people's work or whatever.
Just like, what are you doing? Like,
it's like,
Yeah.
doesn't that
why
seem
are
like
you
more
even
time
in
and
this
energy?
field?
Well, something like that.
Like,
Why don't they just get an action figure, take their own pictures and trace over that?
yeah,
Because that's
something like
more
that.
work
Yeah.
than copying and cutting and pasting other people's photos and illustration. That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
wild. So he
Yeah.
just got really, he put his skills in Photoshop, you know, to waste.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's tough. It's interesting how the topic got from.
Yeah, we went off topic a little.
Well, that's
Yeah, we
okay.
went all over the
It got
place. It was
fun
cool,
though.
I feel like that happens every week though. That's just the way this is going to be.
Mhm.
We should maybe put as the title, starting at.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
like-
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be good.
and
Well, what
then we'll-
happens when you try to spill a few beans out of a can? I mean,
That's it.
all the beans are gonna spill.
Yeah, yeah. Yep. That's a good analogy. That's pretty good.
I bet. How are we
How
on
are,
time?
how are we on time?
I bet
Yeah.
we're far.
Oh yeah, it's like almost an hour.
And we went on. Well,
Yeah.
we hope folks have enjoyed this. If we do, a friend of mine, I still need to check if they're okay with their name being put out, but they wrote a great thing about, we were talking about spaces and
Mhm.
art spaces,
Mm.
and it was just like a real nice poetic thing. So maybe I'll just hark back to that quickly next week.
Mm.
I'll
Oh,
check with them
yeah.
if it's cool, but
Yeah, that'd be cool.
thank you for watching, everybody.
Yeah, thanks,
Yeah.
everybody.
And
Thanks,
if you have
kids.
any ideas or anything like that, and definitely audio, anything, tell
Mhm.
us something isn't quite right. We're still pretty new at this, but yeah, thanks
but
again.
Drop those ideas in the comments.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I
Any
think
ideas
our
you have?
our sheet is running low.
Yeah, yeah. We need ideas for next week and the weeks to follow.
We got one for next week, but then we're running out.
Yeah.
I guess
We can
one-
always talk about paranormal stuff again, because
Yeah.
I know that's a fan favorite, and we're
we could
coming
also
up on
talk about
Halloween.
what comics we can use to draw mustaches on the people inside of it.
That
Mhm.
too,
And just
definitely.
maybe-
Yeah,
don't know.
maybe that guy,
Greg Land. Yeah,
Greg Land's
that
comics.
actually sounds great.
That would
Let's
be
try to sell
hilarious.
those. Yeah.
That would be awesome if you just went and bought a bunch of Greg Land comic books and just drew mustaches on them and just
Really
sold
good
them.
mustaches though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay. Maybe we'll talk to Mickey about that.
yeah.
Oh, that'd be all right.
That'd be a great thing because it'd be very tongue in cheek.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably good comics to upcycle too. Just
Rob.
grab all of his comics and
Yeah.
just turn them into something else.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Rob said Halloween time, guys, do something scary and horror related, which I think we
Oh,
should, like
yeah.
the Tuesday before Halloween or.
Okay.
Halloween is a Tuesday. Woo!
Whoa. Wow. Yeah. So
Mm.
yeah, we'll definitely do something. And that was our best. That was one of our most liked shows and most viewed shows was the paranormal one. So maybe we'll do something like that again.
Yeah.
I know Milton has been and he might be watching, has been saying he wants to be on for a discussion on UAPs,
Mhm.
UFOs, formerly
Okay.
called UFOs, and we can think of all kinds of things for that if he wants, you know.
UAPs,
I think the new title for UFOs is UAPs.
unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because they all look like pills.
Yeah.
They all look like just little random dots flying around.
Unidentified aerial pills.
Unidentified aerial.
Aerial
Phenoms.
pills. That's a cool name for a band. Aerial pills.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That is cool.
What's their slogan? What are they about?
Can't catch us.
We'll
I don't know.
call it there.
Yeah. All right. We'll think of something by next week. Thanks for watching, everyone.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Hanging out just another night of the week. Or to be more specific, it's a Tuesday Eve. Got some ideas that just might intrigue. You should come on by tonight. We're spilling the beans.